Every time humanity attempts to understand the universe, a story emerges that challenges what we thought we knew. One of these stories is the idea of a hidden planet, one that cannot be seen, does not appear on official maps of the solar system, but, or so it is claimed, influences everything happening around us. Not just any distant planet, but Planet X, or as it is better known in the mythic world, Nibiru. For decades, this idea has lived on the internet, in books, and on YouTube channels. And it has two extreme sides. On one side, people who believe it is a real, dangerous body that returns every few thousand years and sows chaos in the solar system. And on the other side, scientists who wave the whole story away as a modern legend and a misunderstanding of physics. But the truth, as always, is more interesting than both extremes. Because the history of astronomy has already proven something very uncomfortable. Sometimes, planets are only discovered after we realize that something just doesn't add up. Sometimes we see disturbances in orbits, anomalies in forces, patterns that aren't supposed to be there, and we realize that perhaps something is missing from the map. So today, we aren't going to make a conspiracy film, nor a myth-busting film. Instead, we will try to answer one simple question in the most scientific and open way possible. Could there be a hidden planet in the solar system? If so, where could it be hiding? How do you even locate something you cannot see? And what differentiates the mythical Nibiru from the scientific Planet X? We will dive into the myth, pass through it, and then separate imagination from real physics. We will examine what science knows, what it only suspects, and what is completely illogical. And finally, we will try to answer honestly. Is Planet X a story, or a real possibility that we simply don't know how to handle yet? Welcome to the episode that opens the door to one of the most charged, most intriguing, and most uncertainty-filled topics, in the place where the mythology of the past meets the science of the present. The myth of Planet X. Where does it even come from? To understand why the idea of a mysterious planet wandering at the edge of the solar system refuses to disappear for decades, we need to go far back, not just to the modern internet and speculative forums, but all the way to the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians. This is where a large part of the narrative from which the myth known today as Nibiru, or Planet X, grew, was born. Even before the 20th century, Mesopotamian writings were considered an extraordinary cultural treasure. Texts on clay tablets, written in cuneiform, describing gods, ancient astronomy, laws, history, and outlining amazing aspects of a relatively advanced society for its time. But in the 20th century, one man entered the picture who changed the whole narrative, at least for the general public. This was Zecharia Sitchin, who became one of the names most identified with the additional planet idea. He presented a revolutionary, and also highly controversial, interpretation of the Sumerian texts. According to Sitchin, some of the ancient texts don't talk about mythology or gods in the usual sense at all, but about technologically advanced beings, the Anunnaki, who came to Earth from an additional mysterious planet in the solar system. This planet, he claimed, is called Nibiru, and it has an extremely radical orbit, elliptical, very distant, one that returns to our region once every few thousand years. And from here, one of the most popular theories in speculative communities was born: the existence of a massive, hidden planet that occasionally approaches the inner solar system, affects Earth, and could even cause disasters. Sounds dramatic? Certainly. But this is exactly where we must stop and ask, what is actually written in the ancient texts, and what is a modern addition? The Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians were amazing civilizations, and not just in the eyes of mystery enthusiasts. They were among the first to study the skies systematically. The Babylonians, for example, were considered very skilled astronomers. They identified planets, predicted solar and lunar eclipses, and recorded astronomical observations for hundreds of years. But it is important to understand, the term Nibiru does indeed appear in Babylonian texts, just not in the sense that Sitchin described. In Mesopotamian sources, Nibiru was mostly an astronomical mythological concept describing a crossing point, a celestial object associated with the god Marduk, or even an association with the crossing of a specific star's path in the sky. It is not a detailed description of a large, inhabited, periodic planet that emerges once every 3,600 years, as in Sitchin's books. And here the central problem begins: the vast gap between academic research and the free, and sometimes fantastic, interpretation that Sitchin created. Scholars of the Sumerian and Akkadian languages criticized Sitchin harshly. They argued that he interpreted words incorrectly, attributed technological meaning to spiritual religious concepts, and inserted modern ideas that do not exist in the texts themselves. In simple words, instead of reading the writings through a historical scientific lens, he read them through a lens of science fiction. And yet, despite the heavy scientific criticism, the idea caught on. Why? Because it provides exactly the combination people love: ancient history plus cosmic mystery plus secret knowledge that astronomers don't want you to know. From here, the road to the modern myth of Planet X was very short. But here comes an important stage, separating myth from science. So, could it be that at the edge of the solar system, a real, non-mythological, non-Anunnaki planet is hiding? Just a large physical object we still don't see. Well, here the story becomes even more fascinating, because this time we aren't talking about ancient texts, but about modern science, telescopes, gravitational calculations, and real observations. After putting aside the myth of Nibiru and Sitchin's archaeological interpretations for a moment, it's time to move to the real and scientific question. Can a large, significant planet that we haven't found yet exist in our solar system? And if so, how is it even possible in an era where we have space telescopes, infrared scans, and tracking systems for almost everything that moves in the sky? The interesting answer is, it's not just theoretically possible. We already have a history where we found a planet before we even saw it. So, before we get to modern evidence, we must go back to the year 1846. In those years, astronomers already knew Uranus, but something about it didn't add up. Its orbit didn't behave exactly as the other planets and Newton's laws predicted. It deviated a bit, as if someone was pulling it there, far away in the dark. And here enters a magnificent scientific moment. Two astronomers, one in France, Urbain Le Verrier, and the other in England, John Couch Adams, independently performed mathematical calculations. They said, if Uranus deviates, maybe it's not a bug in nature, but simply another planet exerting gravity on it. Without seeing it, without a picture, only based on pure mathematics, they calculated where such a planet was supposed to be. And when Johann Galle, a German astronomer, decided to point his telescope at the sky according to the calculation, he simply found it. That was Neptune. And this is perhaps one of the greatest successes of science. A planet that was discovered first with a pencil, and only then with a telescope. So yes, you don't have to see a planet to know it exists. Sometimes you just see its effects on others. And from here we jump to our time. So how can there be a planet we haven't seen until now? When we say invisible, we don't mean magnetic transparency, quantum cloaking, or magic. We are talking about something much simpler. It is very hard to see small, distant, and dark things, even with advanced technology. A planet very far from the sun receives very little light. If it is rocky and dark or covered in ice with a low albedo, low light reflectivity, it reflects almost no light. Add to that a massive distance, a possible orbit lasting tens of thousands of years, and vast areas of sky to scan, and presto. You get hidden, not because it's mysterious, but simply because it is physically elusive. In addition, if it is located very far beyond Neptune and Pluto, it is also very cold, meaning it emits almost no infrared radiation, which makes it hard for thermal satellites to identify it. And here we come to the modern era and the idea of Planet 9. In recent years, the question has been heard again and again. Is there an additional, real planet, not mythological, hiding far away from us? Several researchers, such as Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown, have suggested that the strange behavior of several trans-Neptunian objects like Sedna and other objects in the Kuiper Belt may point to the existence of a very massive body, roughly 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth, pulling them gravitationally. Is this proof? Not yet, but it's certainly reminiscent of the story of Neptune. Strange orbit, suspicion of external influence, maybe a planet we don't see. It is probably not Nibiru that arrives once every 3,600 years and destroys worlds. If such a planet exists, its orbit is massive, slow, very far from Earth, and it does not visit the inner region of the solar system. So why haven't we found it yet? Because the solar system doesn't end after Pluto. Many people imagine the solar system as a sort of relatively small backyard. But in practice, the area beyond Neptune is huge, dark, and most of it hasn't been scanned at high resolution. Even large projects like WISE, which scanned the sky in infrared, don't rule out every object. They mainly rule out brown dwarfs or very large bodies. If there is a cold, dark planet, the size of Earth or a bit more, it could certainly be hiding. You can think of it like this. Seeing such a small and distant body is like trying to find a black fly in a huge, semi-dark room with only a small flashlight. So, the scientific bottom line. Yes, an invisible planet in the sense of we haven't discovered it yet is a completely real possibility. We have already discovered a planet in the past using mathematics alone. There is currently indirect evidence that perhaps hints at the existence of a distant, massive body, what is known as Planet 9. And the distances, the darkness, and the low density of light in the outer solar system make it an excellent candidate for hiding right under our noses. But there is no scientific evidence for the existence of a planet whose orbit approaches Earth. If a hidden planet exists, it is simply another piece of the amazing puzzle of the solar system. Intriguing? Definitely. Dangerous? Probably not. So how do you find a planet you can't see? This is where one of the most impressive capabilities of modern astronomy comes in. In such cases, science does not look for the object itself, but for the tracks it leaves in the universe. 1. Identification through gravity. As in the story of Neptune, one of the most fundamental methods is tracking orbits. In space, there is no random chaos. Orbits obey laws. When a celestial body's orbit becomes distorted, bent, or behaves weirdly, it usually means something is pulling it. Or, in simple words, if we don't see the dog, but we see the chain moving, there's a good chance there's a dog there. In the outer solar system, there are several trans-Neptunian objects, TNOs, like Sedna and others in the Kuiper Belt, that show non-random orbital patterns. Some seem synchronized, as if a large, silent force is influencing them from afar. Is this proof? No. But it is certainly a very strong scent of something. And here come computational models, simulations, and orbital reconstructions over millions of years. Researchers run scenarios. What happens if there is a body there 5 times the mass of Earth? What if it is in a massive elliptical orbit? how does that change the dance of the small bodies around it? If the model fixes the universe, there is a suspect candidate. 2. Seeing without seeing, indirect observation and infrared. Even if a planet is very far away and reflects almost no visible light, it still physically exists. And every physical body emits a little heat, even if it is frozen. This is where telescopes that operate not in regular light, but in infrared come in. Missions like WISE, Pan-STARRS, and others scan the sky looking for extremely faint points of thermal radiation. The problem? If the body is small, extremely cold, and at an extreme distance, the signal is so weak it gets swallowed in the background noise of the universe. It's like trying to hear a whisper inside a stadium. Therefore, we cannot say, "We scanned, there is nothing." We can say, "We scanned, and we didn't discover anything larger than such and forth." Every improvement in technology opens another layer. 3. Long-term sky scans, finding tiny movements. Even very far away, if an object moves, it will change its position relative to the background stars. Imagine photographing the same area of the sky over and over for years. The background stars are fixed. Something that moves slowly is a suspect. This is a super patient mission. Terabytes of data, comparisons, algorithms, artificial intelligence scanning pixels looking for movement that is faint, almost imperceptible. This is less astronomers' romance with a telescope and more data scientists, supercomputers, and a lot of mathematics. So, if it exists and we know how to look for it, when will we finally discover it? And here comes the phrase astronomers love. It's a matter of time, patience, and technology. In the coming years, even more powerful observation arrays are set to operate, such as wide-field automated sky surveys, next-generation giant ground-based telescopes, advanced infrared systems. And the moment there is another leap in capabilities, if there is something there, it will jump from the dark into the light. Summary. Is a distant, unseen planet possible? Yes. Physically, completely possible. Even likely. Does Planet X exist? We still don't know for sure. Is it Nibiru, the destroyer of worlds? Probably not. But ultimately, this is perhaps one of the most beautiful examples of how science works. Sometimes you don't see the thing itself, but the world around it behaves as if it is there. And then, you set out on a journey to find it. One thing is certain, the universe hides many more mysteries, and we are only beginning to discover them.